Good morning, mathematicians. I don't know what we're gonna do today. We're probably gonna keep it short. Got a busy day ahead of me. Wildburger video's been popping off. Been getting lots of comments. Such a Professor Dave enjoyer. That's so funny that someone said that, because I was just thinking, oh God, am I turning into Professor Dave? I watch his videos sometimes, but I also find him, I don't know, just kind of annoying a little bit, to be honest. But I mean, I do appreciate you are indeed first this time, Clippy. You know, his thorough takedowns of, like, you know, getting professionals to come in and talk about, you know, Eric Weinstein's nonsense. But I don't know, there's just something about the particular way that he does things that rubs me the wrong way. Did I find anything more about GCT? No. Someone commented a talk and or like a YouTube link. Face torrecified tesseracts? I don't know what those... I have no idea what that is. I mean, I still find it crazy, but yeah, I posted my research group has our little own Discord server, and so I posted that in the paper there. You still don't understand the statement of Kazhdan-Lusztig hypothesis, but getting closer. You doubt you'll dive very deep into the full proof afterwards. Oh, fair enough. Yeah. Well, I can, yeah. I mean, in short, it says, well, for GLN, there's an easier way to state it. Is it that much easier, though? Your today's challenge: watch Math App and do chem homework. Sounds like a good challenge. The classical Kazhdan-Lusztig hypothesis, or you're talking about the p-adic one, or what? Which one you been thinking about? I guess they're both kind of the same. It says... So here's some big representation, which is labeled by an irreducible, so S pi surjects onto an irreducible pi. And you ask, how many times does sigma show up inside this big representation? Sigma is another irreducible representation. And the answer should be, the answer should be something like the dimensions of the cohomology of some thing, of some complex. You found my Vixer video yesterday. Why don't I have more subs? I don't know. I'm working on it. Maybe if I made more Vixer videos, I would have more subs. That's entirely possible. If I were to backtrack my paper to a last year / first year undergrad background knowledge and were to write notes on it, would it be over 100 pages? Yes. Well, Hmm. I don't know. Well, I mean, it depends. It depends on how much detail I would give, and I would also probably, make refer people to other texts. But I guess I could explain basic proofs and definitions, and then just refer people to other texts for more serious learning. I don't know. That's a good question. It's a very good question. But okay, what's the dimension here? It will be some complex p sub pi labeled by pi. No wait, p sub sigma. I should know this. It's in my damn paper. I always get them confused. I always have to think about it for a second and look them up. Wait, let me see. P. Yeah, it should be this. It should be this, and then restricted to this thing. The requisite undergrad knowledge alone could certainly be that wrong. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Lockheed. Like, maybe right now I'm a cool indie underground channel, But one day, if this channel really blows up, I'll it'll go to my head. I'll get really full of myself, and I'll just make AI slop content all day. Clickbait. Does undergrad knowledge include algebraic geometry or Lie theory? That's a good question. That is a good question. I would assume basic manifolds. The conjecture itself seems very natural. Well, that's weird because I don't feel that way. Like it's a reasonable question and believable answer. But there's some definitions to wrap your head around. What are the definitions you're trying to wrap your head around still? Because to me this seems weird as hell. The classical one is going well. Leo lectures. How are you? The classical Kazhdan-Lusztig hypothesis kind of that makes sense to me. I mean, there's a lot of complicated. If there's a lot of complicated things going on there, but there's sort of a much more believable story to me of like, oh, you go from G to UG representations, and since this can be interpreted as a ring of differential operators, like it's not so hard to go over to D modules on G mod B, which is part of the step that one does in the classical Kazhdan-Lusztig hypothesis. So for me, although the proof is very complicated and involves some high-powered machinery, what was I going to say? It's still there's a believable narrative that one can tell about it. Whereas, I don't know, to me, the p-adic Kazhdan-Lusztig hypothesis just seems so much weirder because in the classical Kazhdan-Lusztig hypothesis, right, you've got the same topology the whole time. Like, you're looking at a classical Lie algebra. And from the classical Lie algebra, you're looking at, like, the universal enveloping algebra. Okay, this is some complex thing. And from there, you go and you look over at, like, the, complex manifold and D modules on here. And then you go look at, like, complex perverse sheaves and I don't know. It's just, and there's like, yeah. But in Langland's world, we're looking at, we're starting with the representations of a group, of a p-adic group, right? These are the QP points, say, of some algebraic group. And, I mean, already in this story, the topology is kind of weird because V is normally taken to be a complex vector space. I mean, that doesn't matter. You could take it to be, let's say, QL bar for L not equal to P. Because you just ask that the representation is locally constant, so it doesn't really mean anything. But so then somehow you're comparing those things to, again, you have a complex variety and you're working with sheaves on some complex variety. So I don't know. To me, it's very mysterious. What prerequisites would one need to get into representation theory? You feel like you're severely missing out on a big chunk of math and you want to join in at some point. The prerequisites for basic representation theory are quite minimal, actually. I mean, linear algebra, basically. Linear algebra, know your eigenvectors, know your, diagonalization. And probably if you know that much, and I guess you need to know group theory. Like a first course on group theory. But if you got basics about linear algebra, maybe abstract vector spaces and group theory, then you're good to go. So relatively minimal requirements. Of course, the subject goes very deep, but, to get started, you don't need that much. Would I be a full-time YouTuber if I had over 100K subs? You bet. You bet. I would just make YouTube videos all day and then write papers in my free time. That would be incredible. Definitely last minute, but you'd be down to call me and ask me about Lie theory stuff right now. Well, let's set something up. Let's set something up in the future. I'll figure out how to, we can meet on Zoom or Google Meet or something, and I'll figure out how to set up a recording or something. We could do that. I don't know. Figuring out how to set it up right now on the fly, midstream. Nah. Ain't bar QL bar C as well? Maybe you're just used to seeing weird stuff expressed as an alternating sum of Betty numbers. Yeah, fair. Getting into algebra is easier than analysis, in your opinion? Well, a lot of people would disagree. Yeah. I recently bought a book, an Invitation to Representation Theory by Howe, but it focuses on what am I saying? Representation theory of the symmetric group in particular, which is fine, perfectly fine. That's a good book. It talks about general stuff about basic representation theory, so it might not be a bad idea. But there's the classical references of Sayre and Fulton Harris, for example. Okay, Saturday morning. Well, send me an email. Leo Lectures, so that way we can plan a specific time to make sure we're both on, and maybe we can even plan to meet early and just to make sure I can get everything set up and stuff. But we could plan for a Saturday morning. I'm down for that. Oh, hello, Colton. Is that the Colton? Hi. Thanks. I hope you're doing well. I think last time you stopped by, you mentioned something. You were working on something about some string diagrams or something about some two categorical realization of affine Hecke algebras. How is that going? If you have something out about that, I'd love to read about that at some point. Was saying using choice you can give an isomorphism, from C to QP bar. Yeah. Yeah. String diagram. Well, I think maybe, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was string diagrams. My memory is hazy at this point, but yeah. Okay. What were we talking about? Well, we could go back over to Rod's blog and finish up. Ooh, yes, I would love to. I would love to take a look at that rough draft. Please do. Yeah, just drop it in Discord or something, I guess. Diagrammatic presentation of the monodromic Hecke category. So there are some string diagrams and lots of colors. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Nice. Okay, cool. That sounds very cool. I look forward to taking a look at that. Which also makes me think, yeah, I'd like more excuses to put more colors in my papers. I could definitely find excuses. There's this. Let me show you. There's this one. Let's see. What did I call it? I think that's what I called it. But this isn't the. No, I didn't make these ones color coded. Did I? No, maybe I. Let me find. Where is it? Okay, actually, if I go to where that file is, I have some fun diagrams. Yes, okay. Open file location. It's in here somewhere. You can see all my my very silly file names. Where did I put it? Oh, I think it's this one. Yeah. So I made these nice little color-coded diagrams. So these are pictures of representations of GL3, of p-adic GL3, in a particular subcategory. And so some of these representations are highlighted, like this is like burgundy because it is the standard representation of this representation. And so you can see these in these diagrams, like the relationship structure about how they like inject and surject onto each other. And there's one really fun one at the end. Maybe it wasn't this one. There's another one that had, I think, a similar title. But anyways, I've never found an excuse, though, to, like, put these in a paper. Because it's just not, yeah, these are the ones, yeah. So here, I then decided to put even more, I mean, for no use. This serves absolutely no, practical use in my research. But so one day, a friend of mine, she put at the end of one of her talks at a conference, just put some pictures of sunsets that she really liked for no reason. So I was like, screw it. I have nowhere to put these colorful diagrams of representations. They're not meaningful. So I just decided to slap them on the end of a presentation because I'm like, I think they're pretty. I just think they're pretty. So, yep. Yeah. Speaking of Discord, I don't have a general Discord. I keep talking about it. I never set it up. I thought about setting up like a Patreon or something. maybe making the basic tier like $1 a month and having it, and then that gives you access to the Discord server. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe that should be at the $5 a month tier. I don't know, but I don't want to be too greedy. I don't know. But then I should be more greedy so I could just be a professional YouTuber. I don't know. Your undergrad thesis is meant to be a little colorful. Well, great. Make it colorful. You always take LaTeX very colorful, but recently was told that real mathematicians only do black and white. Well, I wouldn't put your words and like section titles colorful. For example, like there was someone who recently in undergrad was showing me some written documents that they were making, and they had a bunch of like words that were colorful. And yeah, that I wouldn't say, but this, if I saw this in a paper, I don't know. Math should be fun. I don't know. Put a little color in your paper. Come on, live a little. Reminds me of something you wanted to ask for a while. What is my opinion on tipst or typest? I don't know how to say it. I've never bothered trying to learn it. I don't know, because like I'm proficient in LaTeX, so I don't find myself ever being like, oh, I wish this was somehow easier, like so to go through the pain of to learn some new thing, even if it would be relatively quick, it's hard for me to imagine that there's tangible benefits to me switching over. It's like people having strong opinions about this program and this programming language and that programming language. It's like, I don't think it really matters at the end of the day. How the heck did I do this? Well, let me tell you. So I also did one that's like a 3D cube, and you have to make sure that the lines like here, cross over properly. And here's what I did. I just sat down in an airplane. I had no internet. I was flying somewhere, and I'm like, okay, I've got like a 2-hour flight. There's nothing to do, but I've got a small PDF of TICS instructions with a couple related examples that to work from that I copied over, and then I just sat there and tried to tech things. That's all there was to it. Yeah. So book yourself a 2-hour flight somewhere. Just sit down and go hard. You wish there was a category theory book with minimal text and full picture of arrows. Yeah. You got to write it then. By the way, read the difference of topologies. You think this sort of has to do with just looking at tamely ramified representations? I'm not sure actually what tamely ramified. I mean, so for the representations, yeah. Well, so there's a couple things to say here. So, and well, I don't know. This tamely ramified stuff might be referring to the p-adic Langlands program, by which I mean you're looking at GQP acting on a QP vector space, and then I think there's weirder stuff you need to worry about. But in this case, well, the different topologies, I think it has something to do with this like no small subgroups argument, as it's called, and is basically just, I don't know, there is some, I think there is some perspective where like if you look at V with the discrete topology, and then you try and equip it with some natural operator topology, then this comes out. And basically you have to equip it with the discrete topology, because like if you try, there's some thing like even if you just start with like say QP cross into C, I don't remember the arguments exactly, but it's yeah, something about the incompatibility of the topologies, right? Because this is totally disconnected. This is totally disconnected. And in this world, for the representations of the complex representations of the p-adic group, so I'm not sure what tamely ramified would mean here, because so we do have a maximal compact, which is usually like the CP points, and a representation is K unramified if you're totally disconnected. Yeah. It's K unramified if it's generated by its K fixed points. So it's K unramified if it's generated by its K fixed points. Actually, this applies to any compact open subgroup. And as I've mentioned before, like an automorphic representation, almost all pi v are K unramified. But we're also interested in a subgroup called the Iwahori subgroup, which is a subgroup of the maximal compact, and we're also interested in the I unramified representations. And so actually the so-called principal block, which like sometimes you might hear like the unramified case of the local Langlands correspondence or something, is basically the subcategory of all representations generated by their I-fixed vectors. And here, if you look at a representation belonging to this block, and you take its Langlands parameter, which is from the V group, to you take its Langlands parameter, then if you look at the restriction, or sorry, this should be W prime. If you look at its corresponding infinitesimal parameter, which is the restriction to the V group, then this will be trivial on the inertia subgroup. So it's basically entirely determined by its value at Frobenius. So this does connect, I just saw your recent comment, this does actually connect to unramifiedness on the Galois side. So there is something to be said here. Notice though, crucially, the converse doesn't hold. It is possible to have representations living in different blocks that are still have Langlands parameter trivial on the inertia subgroup. That can definitely happen. But yeah, certainly I do actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think there is something to be said about different kinds of ramification here and classifying supracuspidal representations. I think if you look at Bushnell and Enyart's book, they talk about this actually, now that I think of it. Wow, I've been online longer than I meant to this morning already. Submitted all your stuff in crayon and it's worked out for you? Well, keep going then. Yeah, maybe I'll try crayons for my next paper. Yeah. Referring to your chem homework, don't you love it when random weird decimals cancel out to a whole number? I do. Anywho, that's gonna do it for today. So I'll see y'all very soon, and QED.